I guess you're right. I might win some sort of award for just walking around. Living theatrically.
I wouldn't know about clothing fitting too baggy. That's not an experience I have often in my life.
Well.
All right. You ready to do this?
Hang on.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm going to find a way to consume this cookie during this pencast. Covertly.
Oh, you have a cookie?
I got a cookie.
What kind of cookie?
Look
at
at
that.
that.
Oh, that's a chunky cookie right there.
It's kind of thin, though. English toffee.
Hello.
So, yeah, I got it with my box lunch. And I'm going to see if I can try to consume it without making a kerfuffle.
Well, kerfuffle or not, I believe in you.
Thank you, Drew. I believe in you, too.
Thanks. I don't have a cookie, though, so...
Well, you'll just have to make do.
Okay.
It. All right, let's do it.
Sir!
Hey, everybody. Brian Goulet here. Nope, that's not how we start this thing. Let's try that again. Ooh, I got on autopilot there. I wonder if this is going to be one of those pencasts where you say something and I completely don't pay attention to you and
That's
then repeat
fine.
the exact same thing.
I'm ready
times.
for that. I'm ready for that. We'll be all right.
All right, let's try this again. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 26 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I am Brian Goulet.
And I am Drew Brown.
That he is. And we are here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about fountain pens and what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. I still haven't memorized the intro, and I probably never will. In today's show, we're going to be talking about the Willy Wonka of the fountain pen world, Mr. Nathan Tardif. We're going to be talking about ink smells of various forms and taking pens apart. Namely, should you do that? And which pens should you and should you not? Specifically, Sailor. We got other things too, Drew, including some feedback. We
do have some feedback
from the YouTubes, if I'm not mistaken.
The YouTubes told me some feeds back, and the first bit comes to us from Benthick13, and Benthick says, "I took your advice in the Pencast before Turkey Hammock Day." Nice. Get your Turkey Hammock sticker in the description below, and am working my way through all of them. Good luck with that. Bring some Tylenol. You guys are so much fun and entertaining, especially when you go off topic and joke around. Wow, thank you. More of that to come. Had to comment on this pencast because of the very useful info and practical about one, the Noodler's Ink Miser insert and the Twisby bottles. Yes, those are great.
That was all Drew.
Yes. And the bulb syringe cutoff trick. Wish I'd thought about doing that. You betcha. Another
also
tip of the week coming later today. To fit other sections. Great hacks and advice. Literally a hack on the pen syringe, by the way. Ha!
Yes.
And don't worry, these can never be too long. Sometimes they help me fall asleep. Thank you? Thank you, 10 Sagan units. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and right on. Thank you, Benthick13. Thank you, 11 Sagan units to you as well. I just really like that comment, Brian. That was positive, good blend of nonsense and practical advice. That's what we strive for here, isn't it?
I mean, between the turkey hammock, the joking around a lot, and helpful info that you supplied all of it, I think I can pretty much just coast. I think you're carrying the load on these at this point, and I can pretty much clock out. Maybe I can answer some emails while you're doing this, and
no, you don't want to
get
do
some
that.
other stuff done, because
this is no. A lot of folks don't know. This is usually Brian's chill out time. He is the business owner, so he's got a lot of things on his plate. So hanging out with you and me at the Pencast, this is delightful for all of us involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, Brian, a lot of people let us know, because we were talking a little bit about gander versus goose and that expression.
Yeah.
So a gander is a male goose. A group of goose is a gaggle. And the expression, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, is just a gender thing. Basically, what one situation is for one person should have the same effect on one person. Hey, if you get, to stay home sick because your sibling is home sick, I don't know. It's an equality thing, I guess,
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what I took from it. But anyway,
Yeah.
yes, gander, dude, goose.
Okay, yeah, gaggle. I should have. That rings a very strong bell for me now. It's like
Gaggle bell.
Yes, a gaggle bell. Yeah.
Yep.
Gaggle bell. Hey,
Ringing the old gaggle bell. That's what they say.
Sounds really weird. I don't know why, but some other feedback we got. One is from Jen. Said, just had to pause the video while Brian was talking about the garden tiller. Drew's expression while Brian was going on about a reciprocating saw.
Did
I hear that right? Yes, you did. Hilarious. I'm imagining toothpicks propping up Drew's eyelids as he valiantly tries to power through the epic of Brian's outdoor shenanigans. Cackling like a witch because that's how I laugh. I'd love to see the trails you've cut, Brian. I fully intended on including those pictures in last week's Pencast, and I did not upload the images to our server in time for our editor to include them. So maybe I'll drop that in here if I can remember, but I might not, and then I'll just have promised it twice and then not done it. We'll see. All the convo in the show is interesting to me, really. You get a whole bunch of everything in this Pencast. It's wonderful. That might be the best way to sum this up. You get a whole bunch of everything. And then Lynn says, not gonna lie, the reciprocating saw blade tip about roots is really useful. Never even considered this for some reason. I mean, I could have used that tip 6 months ago when I had to pull out a rose bush, but I'll take it. Hey. You know what? It's better late than never. Once you have this information, you will find ways to put it to use. I can't tell you how many things. I've literally visited my in-laws before and brought my saws and been like, do y'all have any like stumps or roots or anything that you need to cut out? Because I just figured out this awesome way to do it. And they're like, actually, yeah, we do have this thing. And I like visiting my in-laws, kids are like playing in the yard and I'm just like going ham on some roots in the yard. And they're like, something's not right with Dad. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I'm glad. Glad that was of value.
It stung at my core to add these comments about people valuing your trailblazing tips. And this was like, there were multiple, Brian. There were far too many people enjoyed that. And I read one, I'm like, well, I'm not including this. Then I read another and another. I'm like, dang it, I have to add this now. This is legit feedback. Dang. So, yeah, there were more than these two, unfortunately.
Okay.
So,
all right. I'm going to see if I can drop in some images that'll help with this.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Just don't, if you can, just don't sing a song about cutting trails. That would break me. I think it would legitimately harm me, like long term.
All right.
No.
I'm gonna file that away. I'm gonna file that away for use in the future.
That's a double whammy. I cannot handle. All right.
Good stuff. All right, lots of great comments. Y'all are engaging, and just we're loving getting the feedback. So thank you, everybody who's leaving us comments. Now we got some new stuff to talk about. So we'll transition on into for that segment. Some new things. This is a time of year where there's definitely new stuff that's coming out. Holidays, a lot of people shopping, and so on. One new thing is the TWSBI Eco Jade, which I have not seen in person yet, and I just grabbed mine from the office this morning. Oh! And I have not yet seen it in real life, so I'm going to unbox it right this very second. So this is I'm going to call it a light green with some gentle translucency. Not aggressive translucency like you may have on some other special edition Ecos.
Aggressive translucency?
Yeah, aggressive, like very, very translucent. There you go. There's the jade. It's classy looking. So it's like more opaque as opposed to, I'm thinking like the ruby that we've had before. The purple was really translucent, but this one is fairly opaque. So you can sort of see like the shadow of the nib in there, but it's not like you can look through and see what nib size you have with the cap on, right? That kind of thing.
Gotcha.
You know what the color looks like to me, Drew? It looks like that glow in the dark material before it's been like charged up. That kind of like glow in the dark greenish kind of color, except I don't think this glows in the dark.
No, it does not. There were some rumblings about this pen glowing in the dark before it got into people's hands.
I mean, it looks like it should, right? It looks like, you like hold it up to the light and then you like go under the desk and you cup your hands, or you go into the bathroom and you're like, oh, can I see it? But no.
Yep.
I don't think that's what this does. That's not what it's for. It's not what we advertise, and that's not what you should expect. But the color, the color is kind of cool. Like it kind of looks like an alabaster jade type of color. So I think the name is fitting. I love the Eco. Great format of pen. $32. It's really hard to go wrong. So big fan. So that's new. I have no idea the stock status of it because things these days are cray. And we never know when things are going to be coming and going. So yeah. What else we got? Vial holders. Okay, we've been out of these for quite some time. So if you have a lot of ink sample vials and you want to hold them in a single unit, you've not had a great way to do that from us. We had an issue with them. We had some quality changes that happened from the manufacturer that we were sourcing them out from. We sourced out a whole bunch of other ones. None of them looked great. So we sourced out some basically custom ones, and we are going to be talking about them soon. I don't know when. Drew put this note in here, and I'm not actually sure when they're going to be coming, but
we're soon-ish. We don't have a definitive date, but we wanted to just let you know. Thank you for being patient, and we hope that it's going to be worth the wait because this has been a product we've carried for a long time.
I mean, we've been working on this for months. I mean, months.
Yeah,
and we had to invest quite a bit and buy quite a few of them. So I really hope they work out well because it was quite an investment to get them.
We should have something to show in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Awesome. So look for that. And then we have a new Retro 51. They do usually like a seasonal Christmas pen every year. This one is the Holiday Stamp. So this is a rollerball pen. This one they partnered with the USPS to do basically they do a holiday stamp every year, so I'm told. And this one is themed around that. So no like USPS logoing or anything on the pen itself. It's on like the wrapper of the pen tube. But the pen itself, just a nice kind of classic Christmassy theme. So yeah, that is a thing. And unlike Warm Hugs, I don't think it'll be completely sold out by the time we end this Pencast. So we never know these days. There's a good chance we might still have it by Friday when this launches. So that's why I'm talking about it. But you can go check it out on our site while supplies last. That's all I got. Drew?
I got something I'm very excited about, Brian.
Ooh.
As you know, I have been working on getting us some new stickers.
Yes.
And this right there is a corgi with a Pilot Custom 823 in its adorable little mouth. And I am very excited to announce that we will be selling this. Not this one. This is the smaller one. So this one will be included for free in random orders. So we don't really take requests, but maybe if you order something, you'll get this or another new one that we made, which is, I'll include a picture here. It's a rendition of a bottle of Diamine Winter Miracle that has like a little snowy townscape in the bottle itself. So perfect for the season, considering winter hasn't actually begun. It's not like you need to have this in time for Christmas or anything, because winter, you've got plenty of time for winter.
Yeah,
but we will be both selling these in larger sizes and then giving them both away in orders, just like we do with all of our other stickers. So you can either roll the dice and order, or you can pick one up on our website as an actual item. Both of these designs were made by a very, very talented artist who goes by the Instagram handle Inky Converters. So you can see more of her work there if you so wish.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, we are going to we actually do have available a new ink from Jacques Herbin. This is called Shogun, and this is a pretty big deal. This was in celebration of the life of Kenzo Takada, who is a famous fashion designer who passed away last year in 2020. So this was a collaboration, and it is a dark gray with, get this, Brian, red and gold shimmer.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Which are inspired by the armor, the samurai armor from the Edo period of Japan. So pretty cool inspiration, pretty cool story, pretty cool ink. Check it out, gouletpens.com. It's an interesting one. Definitely worth a look.
Yeah, that looks hot. Hot,
it's
like H-A-W-T, hot.
Who doesn't want samurai ink?
That's pretty rad. All right. That's for the new stuff. There's other new things. You should check out our website. New things happening all the time. Q&A questions this week. So got some interesting ones, kind of all over the map. No central theme, but that's okay. Because apparently we like to... What was it said in the comments earlier here? That we like to...
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a whole bunch of everything in this Pencast. So,
a whole bunch of everything.
A whole bunch of everything. So that's going to be... We're going to start that off here. So Caroline069 says... Who did you inherit your love of pens from? Drew? You want to start this one off?
Yeah, we answered a similar question a couple episodes ago about whether or not any of our grandparents or parents really used pens, and we both answered no. We kind of found them through different means. But I did think this was curious, Brian, because I would say that anybody who's into pens probably has like some sort of nerd gene or collector gene or something like that. And it got me thinking, while I wasn't introduced to fountain pens by a parent or grandparent, I definitely have had the collector obsessive passion kind of passed down to me by, I think, my mom. And it wasn't, but recently I kind of figured that out. I was actually at a family gathering and I was like, why am I like this? I think, I don't know what I was talking about collecting. It might have been the coins or whatever, but everybody was kind of like, I don't know. I don't do that. And my mom, who's really quiet at family functions, was just kind of like, yeah, that's me. And I was like, what? And she's like, you remember the soap? And then all of a sudden I was just like, oh my God, yeah, you were like obsessed with making soap for everybody for like a year. And then she just stopped. And then all of a sudden it started flooding. I'm like, oh my God, my whole life she's just been just rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole, just going deep, deep, deep into something and then just moving on to something else. And I'm like, okay. Yep, that's it. She got like so super into Jimmy Buffett when I was a kid. Like she was going to like Jimmy Buffett fan club meetings, and now I don't even think she listens to Jimmy Buffett. I don't know. It got nuts though. It got so nuts. She was collecting Fiesta-ware dishes and pitchers and stuff from eBay. Like she has like a whole wall of Fiesta-ware now because of her like that one eBay period in her life. Like crafts, making earrings. Like in the early '90s. Like definitely my mom. So I definitely think that I have that. So
Today we had a
when
and it was one-year-old teachers.
Sorry, Drew. Ellie's got something to say.
Okay.
I have him on my earbud, so you can't hear what he's saying. But okay, what do you want to say, dear?
Today I had a substitute. It was one-year-old teachers.
One of my old teachers?
Mr. Johnson.
Wow, how about that?
Mr. Johnson was one of my teachers too.
Yeah. Wow.
Did Drew have it?
Drew had him too. Yeah.
What grade
Yeah.
was that?
That was 5th grade.
5th grade.
Wow.
That's wild.
Did he remember, Daddy?
Wow, that's really cool. Oh, drop some cookie. Oh, just okay. Just ate it. That's cool. Well, that's great. All right, I'll talk to you about it later. That's
So Brian's daughter had our 5th grade teacher as a substitute in her class today, Mr. Johnson.
Wow.
So yeah, Brian and I were both in the same 5th grade class together.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
How about that? Wow, that's funny.
He's still around. I wonder if he still has a mustache though.
I don't know. Good question.
You'll need to follow back up with Ellie on that
I'll
one.
need to follow. Yeah, we don't need to
Yeah.
get into all that on the Pencast here.
Yeah, so I definitely go down rabbit holes. I definitely have that like collector bug, which fountain pens definitely fill the gap there. I love the tactile feel of the tactile nature of fountain pens. In writing, I've always doodled. I do go through crafty rabbit holes. The feel of the pen on the paper definitely kind of scratches that itch, and then just the assortment, the wide variety. I can just really, really get into that, and it definitely kind of crosses that section of that creative bug, that crafty thing, and then that collector bug. So that little intersection is where fountain pens kind of live in my life. So I definitely think that I am susceptible to the fountain pen bug because of my mom and kind of that path of my family.
Yeah, so no like direct exposure to fountain pen specifically, but you were certainly a warm lead going into the fountain pen world.
Definitely. I was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I wasn't exposed to the pens, by my family or anything like that. I'm sure. I mean, once I started getting into fountain pens, my parents were like, "Oh yeah, we used fountain pens back in the day," but it wasn't something they ever talked about. They didn't have any back from their childhood days, but they definitely used them in school, so they were familiar with it and started talking and started using them a little bit. They're not like avid users of them, even though obviously it's a very impactful part of my life. It was more like just kind of a discovery on my own, just kind of happenstance, and then through woodworking and making pens and stuff like that. And then I was making rollerball pens with pen kits, and then there were also fountain pen kits. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've heard about fountain pens, didn't really know how they worked. So it was really as a pen maker, craftsman, that's how I kind of got exposed into the fountain pen world, really just purely from the kind of tool and mechanical side of it. And then it was through exploring that I discovered, forums and blogs and other things. So I really didn't have like your typical, maybe introduction of like a person who's really into it, kind of, introducing me to things and getting to try out their pens and all that. I really just had to kind of fumble around in the dark and discover it on my own. But then obviously the rest is history. I've made up for that with everybody else I've introduced it to.
But Brian, I would be willing to bet money that you were as susceptible as I was to going down this rabbit hole because of your dad. Like that man can go down some rabbit holes.
He definitely goes down rabbit holes. I mean, my father has made his own biodiesel. He had a couple of like antique Mercedes diesel cars that he was working on and restoring. He's, picked up various musical instruments and attempted to learn them, much despite his own lack of kind of musical background. He's gone down some rabbit holes. He's never been one to physically collect a lot of things though. Like he had a couple of cars that he kind of worked on, but he drove them and stuff like that. He just liked working on them. That's why he had them, but he didn't really collect them per se.
But the research and like the whole biodiesel thing, I mean, come on, that is...
Yeah, definitely. There's a bit of a rabbit hole there.
Yeah.
My mom has more of like the knickknacks and that type of stuff. Like one
Patty
of the
wax.
things, patty wax, getting lots of dogs' bones, all these types of things. It's just a part of the deal.
So maybe you've got the collector thing from your mom, and then the obsessive like woodworking, crafty thing from your dad.
Yeah, you know what? I think it is. I think I'm a blend of both my parents that has just like combined like, what are two things you combine? I don't know. Two things that combine that make a big reaction. I'm thinking some kind of like, I was like rocket fuel. I don't think you combine rocket fuel with
Mentos and
anything.
Diet Coke.
There you go. Like Mentos and Diet Coke, just blowing up. So that's really been part of it. Like my mom has, Drew, we've talked about this before offline, off the Pencast, accidental collections, which is like, we talked about it last week on the Pencast because we talked about Rachel's target birds. Talked to Rachel's birds. I also meant to put pictures of those in and totally forgot. I just really have not been on it. We have a lot of those little birds.
That's definitely an accidental collection.
That was an accidental collection from her. But my mom's one of those people, she just like never asks for anything. So she's really hard to buy for because she never like expresses a specific thing that she wants.
Oh, is this the Swarovski crystal thing?
No, not the crystal thing. This is the
because I know you've bought those for her before.
They're Christmas ornaments where they are snowmen made out of marshmallows.
Yes. Yeah,
so it's like a s'more, so it's got like a graham cracker chocolate and then a little marshmallow snowman figure doing various activities, right? So she's got, I don't know, 1.5 dozen, 2 dozen of these things now.
Oh my God, really?
Mainly because, I mean, they're adorable and cute. So she puts them out like at Christmas time and whatnot. So whenever people go over, they're like, oh, look at this. And it's one of those things where
you must really like these.
There's a bunch of different versions of them. And it's like, oh, you like this. Here's
Let
one
me buy
that, this one is knitting and this one is surfing or whatever, So, and my mom comes from a huge family. She's one of 9 kids.
Oh my God.
All the siblings and stuff like that, they like go yard sailing and they go to antique shops and stuff like that. And if one of them sees one of these knick-knacky things that they know the other sibling likes, they will often buy them. So they're all buying collection of knick-knacky things for each other all the time. And I was like, I just grew up with this with my mom. So I was like, Mom, you have a lot of these little snowmen. And I would just buy it for her too, because it was easy as a kid. You don't know what to buy your parents as a kid. And then I would just buy my dad really ugly ties, like the
I have one of those
the
ornaments.
Tasmanian devil on it and stuff like that. You have one of what?
I have one of those ornaments.
The snowman?
My mother-in-law got one for me, and I remember, I never forget the way she phrased it, because she told my wife, and she was like, she had already bought it or was about to buy it, and her thing was, does Drew like sock monkeys? And she was like,
what?
I mean, I don't think he has like an opinion on sock monkeys per se. So I'm like, so I'm like, what the heck is she getting me? Like, I don't need a sock monkey. I mean, what? And then so Christmas comes and I have a little ornament, little marshmallow snowman on a graham cracker, but he's just cradling a sock monkey under his arm. I'm like, oh, okay, so he's got a sock. Okay, he's got a sock monkey. All right, that's
there
fine.
you go.
So every time we see a sock monkey now, Shannon's like, Drew, how do you feel about sock monkeys? Like, what's your opinion on sock monkeys?
See, that's how it starts, Drew. Somebody gets you one of those things, and then somebody else sees it, and they're like, oh, Drew must be into sock monkeys. And then you get like a sock monkey. I don't know. What's something else you would get with sock monkeys?
I don't know. Nothing.
Like a coffee mug with sock monkeys on it, or whatever. And then you start
God.
using that. And then all of a sudden, you got like 10 different sock monkey things because random people just buy you these things. And you're like,
okay, I really want to know.
That's the accidental collecting that I'm talking about. Like,
yeah, tell us in the comments if you have an accidental collection where people just started buying you stuff and now it's just a thing and you don't, there's no turning back now. Let us know. I'm really curious about anybody else who has an accidental collection. This is hilarious, and I doubt we're alone on this.
Yeah. See, with me, I scare off our family members because they know I get so deep and so hard into my hobbies and obsessions.
That's me.
They're like, I don't even know how to buy this thing for you. Like, you're into puzzles. Like, what are these puzzles? I don't even
have them all.
They're like, you have like 100 of these things. I don't even know. I just know you like them. Just tell me what to buy and I'll buy it for you. And I'm like, cool. This is a specific weird thing that I want.
Yeah.
And they're like, great. So I don't get a lot of accidental things. Or if I do, it's duplicates of things I already have because people buy it, like the Rubik's Impossible. Have you ever seen that thing? It's a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, but it has like that holographic kind of material. Like you look at it from two different angles and it changes color. So it's actually kind of annoying because it's really, really hard to solve because basically when you look at the different pieces from different angles, they change colors. I've been given like 3 of them very thoughtfully, but like, yeah, it's really cool. But like people buy it and they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, yes, I have this and I can't solve it. And it frustrates me. Oh my gosh, but it's fun.
All right, before we go, I just real quick, did you see the video of that kid juggling 3 Rubik's Cubes and solving them while he was juggling?
Yes, I did.
How did that make you feel?
I mean, respect. I have respect for that kid. No doubt. Yeah.
All right.
Same kid can also solve, I think he solved Rubik's Cube with his feet while he was solving one in each hand. Yeah. But the juggling one is more impressive, actually. Believe it or not, solving a Rubik's Cube with your feet, it's not a competition level event anymore, but it was for several years at the Rubik's Cube competitions. There was a foot solving, category for Rubik's Cubes. There's also one for solving it one-handed. There's one for solving it blindfolded. They have multiple blindfolded cubes. I think the record is like 60 or 80 cubes or something like that.
What about solving it in your mouth?
I don't think that's been an event at a Rubik's Cube competition.
All right, there's your chance, Brian.
Yeah. What are we talking about? A whole lot about everything? That's,
God. All right,
what
next
were we even
question.
talking about?
Next
I'm lost.
question.
Okay, go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Oh, once again, the internet gnome is asking us a question. And when I asked on Instagram, hey, what should we talk about? The internet gnome is requesting that we talk about Nathan Tardif, the Willy Wonka of the ink world. And Brian, you are uniquely situated to discuss Nathan Tardif, the Willy Wonka of the ink world. And if you don't know who Nathan Tardif is, he is the owner, proprietor, founder of Noodlers Inc. Yeah, Brian, just kind of give us a overview. Like, who is Nathan, and like why is he unique within the industry? Like, you've worked with him for over 10 years now, and you've met the guy.
Yeah, I met him several years ago. Very interesting guy. I mean, he's one of these, I'd call him like an eccentric genius, right?
So what does he do differently with his ink than like other manufacturers? Like,
well, I mean, so
it's not a factory.
It's basically him making all this stuff, and he makes it it doesn't have a large facility or anything. It's very the volume of ink that he cranks out is amazing given where he does it. He's super efficiency oriented and very like frugal. Like, value is really important to him. So he innovated by doing things like buying what would typically be a 2-ounce glass bottle or 2.5 ounce or something like that, but he fills them to the absolute brim so that you get 3 ounces of ink in there. So if you buy a Noodler's bottle of ink, there's not one extra drop of ink that could fit into that bottle. He fills them to the absolute brim.
Keep them on a flat surface when you open them.
Absolutely. And when he buys things, he buys it in bulk because he's always thinking about like the cost per whatever, whether it's, glue sticks to be able to adhere the labels onto his bottles. And, he has inkjet printers that he has hacked. He buys like old inkjet printers that can be hacked so that he can fill them with his own inkjet printer ink that he uses to print his label art for his bottle labels. So he has like this whole basically like wall of inkjet printers that are all like Frankensteined, and where he prints out all of his own labels. So just like things like that, that's just like, you can tell this guy is kind of like a mad scientist and just loves solving random problems like that. But just background, I mean, when he was, just to show you like just how industrious and how creative he is, not only has he created a number of extremely innovative inks, especially at the time, I think he started in 2003 officially maybe with Noodlers. So it's going on 2 decades here. He, he was really into permanent inks and creating inks that could not be washed away with bleach and with other, check washing fraud kind of typical techniques of the time. And he had at one point did a contest for trying to, basically if someone could remove his Noodler's black ink from, paper, he said that he had some kind of monetary prize and then would develop an ink to combat that, to make it so that it couldn't be done. Well, there were some like MIT grad students or something that used some kind of laser thing that they had there that they were able to remove it with that obviously impractical process of using an expensive MIT laser. And they were able to remove Noodler's Black. So that's why he created, which one? The
Warden series.
The Warden series is laser proof, which of course is irrelevant to the majority of the population.
So the Warden series are any inks within the Noodlers line that have the word bad in front of them. So bad belted kingfisher, bad blue heron, bad black moccasin, bad green gator.
Yep, he created those as a response to that MIT laser thing. So just, it's been a real adventure hearing some of these stories about like how Nathan has been so driven by really the core things that he's done ever since he started Noodlers, which is pushing the envelope in terms of permanence, in terms of economy, value to the end consumer.
Talk more about the value aspect, Brian, because when I started with the company, we launched the Noodlers Creeper fountain pen, and it was $14 at the time. Yeah. And that really kicked off a wave of interest in the flex nib, or the resurgence of the flex nib. And he sold it at such a dirt cheap price, and it really shook things up, didn't it?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, when the Noodlers Nib Creeper, the flex nib version, there was a non-flex version that he was also kind of toying with at the same time, but the flex one is just the one that really took off. This is at a time when there was no steel nib flex pen anywhere. It was just not a thing. So he created this thing with an ebonite feed and everything, piston fill. It was like no one had ever seen anything like this. And really no one, especially in that price point, had any access to any flex nib whatsoever. So it was crazy innovative, and it was like, it would break our website every time we would get a shipment. And it was like months in between shipments because it was just so new. He was hand fitting every single thing, hand setting every feed, and it was just, it took a lot of time for him to, test and get all these things done. His process is much better now. So, I mean, granted, we're out of stock of a lot of them. COVID's messed up a lot of things, but, now it's just a whole different story in terms of his availability of his feeds and nibs. But yeah, at the time it was just completely unheard of. And he just really busted the door wide open in terms of availability of flex nibs to lesser expensive pens. Because basically before that, you had the Pilot Falcon with a soft nib, which was, it's not like a full flex, but it's about the closest thing you could get at the time.
Namiki Falcon at that time.
Namiki Falcon, that's right. It was Namiki at the time. And then other than that, it was pretty much vintage. I mean, that was your only other option, which is not practical or accessible to basically anybody. And so he really, really opened a lot of people's eyes, made it accessible. And then really looking back now, as a result of the last decade, really, you're seeing a number of flex nib options that are available now, I think due almost solely in part to Nathan Tardif creating something that got a lot of these nibs in people's hands and got people excited about flex nibs.
Do you think that apart from flex nibs, and I was just thinking about this while you're talking, that in addition to that revolution, he kind of prompted some of these larger manufacturers to think about bringing some of their fountain pens down to that entry-level price point around the $20 mark? Because before him, I can't think of, like the Metropolitan wasn't around, the Pelican script was around, but there weren't as many, it doesn't seem like there was as much of a focus on getting those like $20 fountain pens out there.
I don't know if, I would feel very confident saying that he has undoubtedly been one of the most single-handedly influential people in the flex nib, kind of obsession. I don't know if I would say that quite as much for the lower priced stuff, because there were lower priced pens, and there have been like things like the Platinum Preppy and stuff like that.
The Preppy, yeah, that was around.
They've always been popular, and in that price point too. There have been a number of other pens that have been that price point. I think that was more coincidental. I mean, I think definitely he had an influence in some of that. I think some of it was a little bit coincidental as well, just with the rise of the internet and just so many new people finding out about fountain pens that hadn't known about them before. I think that right there opened up the opportunity for a lot of lower priced fountain pens, like introductory level fountain pens. So yeah, I think he folded nicely into that and helped lead with some of that. I think maybe some of the more innovative features, like he had like a less expensive piston fill, some ebonite feeds and stuff like that. But still, you don't see ebonite feeds on very many pens, and you don't see them on affordable pens either. So even that, he still kind of stands alone. So certain things like that have just been particular things that he's been driven to, just by his own personal passions, driven to offer on his products. But certainly he's been one that stands out as part of that movement of like more affordable, more entry-level pens. And he's been really big about being able to tinker with your pens and play with them. So he designed them to be able to heat set the feed and these types of things. So I think that he has been one, sort of like, TWSBI, where they include instructions in the wrench and stuff like that to like almost encourage people to be able to take their pens apart. I think he folds into sort of that level of interest where, especially at the time, the really premium pens, the Mont Blancs and things like that, they were basically designing them to not be taken apart and not be user serviceable and things like that.
Fountain pen companies hate this guy.
Yeah, the ones, it's like, and it kind of makes sense. Like, I get it. Not everybody wants to tinker with their pens. And, so it's kind of like anything too. It's like you have cars now where, they don't even show you the engine. They just cover it all up and don't want you to
there's a
even
big deal
change
right now,
oil.
like in multiple industries, about things being user serviceable.
And some of that's related to, that's a big thing all over the place. Some of that's related to like software, and as software gets more, bigger deal, like you go to get, your car is a good example. There's a lot that you can't fix on your own car because you need a computer to plug into it and get the codes and get the whole analysis.
If Nathan built a car, it would be just, you could buy everything at Home Depot. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, everything you need to replace, you'd be able to go to the local hardware store, pick one up.
Yeah. So I mean, he's and just like his whole story is really, really cool. Like
one thing I would definitely recommend anybody do is we have a video on our YouTube channel of Brian sitting down and having a nice lengthy interview with him. And Brian, to my knowledge, you've been the only person in the industry that has sat down with Nathan, got him on camera for that sort of interview. Like, so definitely check that out. We don't need to cover all that here, but like, what were some of like the biggest takeaways from that, or most interesting aspects of getting that meeting with him?
Two of the most interesting things that just kind of speak to the guy, kind of who he was. Very, very bright. I mean, off the charts. Knows his history. Oh my gosh.
Well, a lot of that's worked into like his naming conventions. Like, there's a story behind almost all of his inks.
There's like, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean this in no way as a derogatory statement whatsoever. It wouldn't surprise me if he's on the spectrum somewhere. He's like so bright and just like savant level intelligence, but then he's thinking about things in just like a completely different way. And like sometimes I have a hard time following him in a conversation because he's talking like layers deep on a concept, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know like what you're talking about. So it's like sometimes can be difficult to relate to and understand in certain ways, but like he just creates amazing things. I mean, as an example, he learned basically ink chemistry and stuff like that. He got into pens and nib repair and all that kind of stuff, had some training, but largely is self-taught. So he wanted to start repairing pens and doing stuff like that. He was, I think, 10 or 11 years old at the time and was trying to do this stuff. So he wrote handwritten letters to like the certain like Japanese suppliers and stuff that he was working with. And he corresponded only by pen and paper so that they wouldn't know that he was basically a child, trying to do this stuff. So it's like he was thinking about that kind of stuff basically as a kid and started working and creating this stuff. So it's like, that's one just really interesting little fact about him. So he really has been in the pen world for decades.
And a lot of people think he's really
super old. No,
yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people, there's this myth that he's like this old grizzled, bearded hermit.
No, he's like mid to late 40s. He's probably about 10 years older than us.
It's crazy.
I was kind of surprised. I thought he was super duper old too, but no, he's pretty spry. And then the other thing too is he's a he does Taekwondo, and he like basically is a black belt level like Taekwondo. He would have his black belt, but he did not want to pay the fee to take the test and actually get the belt. So basically he's a black belt, but his frugalness, I was like, okay, that I can see that.
That tracks.
And then he's a big fisherman, a lot of fish themes and noodling and stuff like that. That's the theme. That's noodlers, where the name comes from. So noodling, if you're not familiar, if you're not from the U.S. especially, it's a very, I'll call it a niche fishing interest.
Frighteningly dangerous.
So basically,
little insane.
Catfish, especially down in the southern United States, catfish bury themselves into the mud, like in like kind of swampy areas down in ponds and lakes and stuff. And noodling, what that is basically you swim down with your bare hands, you stick your hand in the little hole that the catfish make for themselves. You let them bite your hand, and then you pull them out of the hole and bring them up to the surface, and then you take them off your hand. So you're quite literally, you're the bait, and going around trying to get these fish. So
people die doing that. They drown because it's not just a matter of like picking up a fish. Like this thing will keep you underwater.
It can keep you underwater, and you're sticking your hand into holes. You don't know what's in that hole. Might not be a catfish, might be something else. You don't really know. So it's a pretty dangerous thing. But anyway, whatever. So Nathan, I don't think he does a lot of noodling himself, but he just, I guess, is a fan of the freedom nature of the sport, maybe, or just the like man versus fish kind of nature of it, just the raw.
In Massachusetts, he does have like a long lineage and respect for the whaling history in the New England area. And,
he's got a.
That's a lot of man versus fish right there, or man versus
fishing whaling
mammal
lineage. That's why there's a lot of like the there's Ahab and stuff like that. It comes from.
Yep.
Whaleman, CPI, he's got a lot of whale themes in there. But the other fun fact is that one of his thrill-seeking adventures that he likes to do is go shark fishing in a canoe. So he goes fishing for sharks in a canoe. And he says that he'll catch like brown sharks and stuff like that. And he says they'll pull you across the bay in the canoe. So you're like going a pretty
Sounds like something
click,
out of a cartoon.
Like 15, 20 knots getting pulled by a shark that's 3 times longer than you are in a canoe. And I was like, I don't think I have an interest in doing that myself, but that would be pretty interesting to see. I think he's done that on several occasions. Man. So when I went and visited him years ago, he had invited me to possibly go fishing with him. And Rachel was like, you're not going to go shark fishing with him, right?
In his canoe.
It didn't end up working out, and he was like, and I did talk to him about it. He was like, no, I was never going to take you, fishing like that. He's like, just imagine Nathan Tardif and Brian Goulet dying in a horrible shark fishing accident. Like, no, we opted to just like, maybe
thank you for that.
Maybe we should not do any risky ventures, but I did get to see his operation. I was sworn to secrecy not to take any pictures or talk any detail about, what his facility was like. Much
was there
what
a cauldron?
There was no cauldron.
Dang it!
Cauldron. I mean, No, like open metal container with like a wooden spoon, with like spells written on the wall.
Were any of the utensils like alive and kind of enchanted and walking around?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well,
I mean, there were lots of containers, carboys and, drums and things like that. So, more like, I guess, quasi-industrial type things than it was, Witches of Eastwick type.
Well, I'm just going to ignore that and just continue to assume that it looked like Merlin's shack.
I don't want to kill the magic for you.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I definitely recommend you check out the video. Like, if you're wondering why Noodlers is so popular, it's because no other ink manufacturer has a central figurehead like Nathan, who has a story like Nathan. So it's for anybody who's is wanting to buy kind of the why behind a brand, like there's a lot of why here. So it speaks to the popularity and the longevity of the brand. So there's definitely substance behind the stories and the brand itself. So
absolutely,
very cool.
All right, next one we have is from DRW Leonardo. Do all inks have a scent? I only have one bottle and it smells, but I'm curious if they all do.
So does that mean his bottle smells? Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Smells like glass.
I will say there have been times where we've gotten complaints, in the customer care department about like, hey, my ink smells a little funky. Is that bad? And we've gone and looked or smelled, and we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, this does smell funky. And then we smell more, and we're like, wait, no, these all smell funky. And then we smell other brands. We're like, no, that smells funky too. So it's kind of like the answer is yes, all ink has a smell. There is no ink that I've ever sniffed anywhere that has a completely neutral, like, lack of odor. Like they all have something going on. Noodlers has a very, very unique odor. I mean, some colors more than others. One, because they all have different stuff in them. Like no two inks have the same ingredients. So you could be smelling a different dye component, or you could be smelling a biocide agent, or you could be smelling some other agent that gives it a type of permanence or water, resistance, or something else that actually does something. So there's a whole lot going on, and we don't have complete lists of any of the inks ingredients that we sell. It's just not something that's provided because they're not legally obligated to, so why would they? But there are times where an ink can smell like mildew, like that moldy, musky thing, and it is because, there is, something going on in there. But really, that's not kind of the end-all, be-all, like, oh, you should throw this away. Really, an ink can smell funky and be just fine. Really, you need to look for sludge. You need to look for actual, like, white specks of mold. Like, anything visible, like, yeah, that's going to impede your flow. But if it's just stinky and still wet, like, it's going to work just fine, But really, if you go looking for it, if you think it smells funky and then you smell another one, you're going to find a smell. Like, if you look for it, it will be there. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy of stink. But you use, get like a toothpick or something, try to, if you see something actually floating in there that's definitely not supposed to be in there, like a sludge, anything mushy, that's definitely not supposed to be there. Sometimes you'll see like particles that are either floating on top. That's actually not uncommon, like kind of shiny bits of like oily looking sediment. That's pretty common actually. Anything that hangs in suspension, that's usually pretty common too. There are some funky floaty things in a lot of Noodlers inks, like Dragon's Napalm, Georgia Peach. That's all supposed to be there too. It looks bad, but it's supposed to be there. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But yes, all ink smells, but it's not necessarily a bad thing or an indicator that like you should throw it away.
Yeah, and we've asked Nathan too about, because the nice thing about Nathan being a smaller manufacturer and knowing his ink composition is we can sort of ask him when we had things like Drew said, Georgia Peach. We were like, there's like this, it was almost like a shimmery type of glittery, chunky
like mica,
stuff in it.
like flat,
like flakes of stuff.
Yeah.
And we were like, what is it? But it would all sink to the bottom and it wasn't like floating around. It didn't have a real smell or anything. We were like, what is up with this? He said basically it's like a crystallization. It's like a reaction with the dyes that are used. There's like, and he has very heavily saturated inks. So he says that, sometimes in certain ink, formulations, there can be some crystallization that happens over time. And that it's not a problem really if you just ink up your pen and don't have those crystals in there, or filter them out or just leave them in whatever, as long as it doesn't clog the pen, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not a growth that's happening. It's basically a result of the dyes, having a little bit of reaction. But like Drew said, basically if you have like fuzzy, like sweater, material that's growing on top of the ink, that's not great. That's when you have a problem. And usually it's a different smell. If you've never smelled moldy ink, truly moldy ink, let me tell you, you will then never doubt a normal smelling ink that just has maybe some biocide or some, regular kind of chemically smell to it. The moldy ink is like a whole different situation. It's like when you have never changed a dirty diaper before, and then you change a dirty diaper, you're like, oh my gosh, this smell is unmistakable, and I can never unsmell this. It's kind of like that with moldy ink, and it usually kind of punches you in the face. So if you're smelling your ink,
again,
and you're
it's an
can't
indicator.
really tell. Yeah, exactly. But it's usually pretty distinct. And honestly, we've not run into a lot of moldy ink issues in recent years. I think a lot of the manufacturers have gotten better about, dialing that in, using better processes to prepare for that, better biocides and things. So it's not nearly as much of an issue as it was maybe 10 years ago, where we would hear about it a little bit more.
Yeah. And sometimes we have had little stale smell happen. And it has not really resulted in any negative impact. Just because there's a funky smell, if it does smell moldy, get a disposable pipette or something, swirl it around at the bottom, see if you can pick up anything.
Toothpick can be good too.
Yeah, if it can reach. But just because it smells funky doesn't mean that it's going to hurt your pen in any way. But it should be kind of like a little flag, let me check into this a little bit more. But if you don't find anything and the ink looks totally normal, then keep writing with it. It should be fine.
Look at Drew as an example. He smells funky, but it doesn't mean he's going to hurt your
Right.
pen.
Yeah. I mean, you can literally, if you put on a different filter, you'd see like the cartoon green waves coming off of me.
Absolutely.
But I still have like one or two friends, maybe. I think. I don't know. Probably not. But I could. I think I could.
Friendly. I
think I could. Friendly. Yeah. Polite.
They're friendly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I appreciate that.
That friend in I know he doesn't really have a lot of other friends, so I guess
Bless
I'll
his
be
heart.
nice to him.
Yeah.
Like that. That's kind of a
Yeah. Maybe if I wore fewer sweaters, I'd be less stinky. I don't know.
I know I would be, that's for sure. I opted for the this is full on legit holiday sweater here. This is got the print all the way around.
That's right.
It's
looking good.
I'm very warm.
How are your forearms though? Are they nice and cool?
Venting.
There we go.
Getting maximum skin exposure. Not pulling them up above the elbows, though. This is trying to keep this sweater more or less intact. But,
good job. All right. Yeah. Question 4 from Chisagi. And they ask, is it possible to disassemble a Sailor Pro Gear or Slim? If so, how, Brian?
Is it possible?
So, I'm wondering...
is it possible? It's possible.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible.
How would they know if they should even try something like that?
Well, I suppose they're asking us and looking for us to tell them if it is or not. That's one approach.
Should they?
I would not say that this is one pen that's really meant to be disassembled. It's definitely not like a TWSBI or a Noodler's type disassemble. Now, pretty much... just know with all of the Japanese brands, they're not super enthusiastic about users taking their pens apart. Pilot probably has the most explicit language in there about not taking it apart. I know Sailor, you're going to avoid some warranties if you're taking things apart and then there's any type of an issue. They don't take as kindly to that. But there's not that much to really take apart, in my opinion, on these pens, other than if you wanted to remove the nib and the feed. Now, there's no crazy stuff going on with the nib and the feed where it's a secret decoder latch that you have to do to be able to remove it. I mean, it's friction fit inside of there. So if you are feeling adventurous enough, you can remove the nib and the feed out of the pen with friction. You can put it back. It's got to go back in a specific orientation. You got to be careful not to damage the nib or the feed when you're pulling it in and out. I wouldn't say they design and openly encourage for that to be done on a regular basis. But should you choose to do this with your own product that you've purchased, it is completely within your ability. And I would say that taking the nib and feed out is one of the relatively less risky activities to do with the pen. Taking it apart beyond that, I would say probably not going to gain you much for one. And then you're really just kind of asking for trouble because there's actually a lot of components in there. Like the center band, the ring in the center band, the threading, all that kind of stuff. It's not just like one piece. Basically every little part that you see, every trim ring, everything, that's all different components, which if you try to take things apart, if you even can, I've never tried to like actually take all those pieces apart. There's probably some stuff that's glued in there. There's probably some threading that's hidden that you don't know. And if you try to pull it out when it's really threaded, you could strip those threads and crack pieces and stuff. It's just not something that I would advise you try very much. The only thing I can think, Drew, is like on some of the translucent ones, if there's like an inner cap and ink gets behind it, that's usually the only other situation where people want to disassemble it more is like, can you remove that inner cap? Excuse me? That's usually like fairly doable thing.
Yeah, it is. With Sailor, it's just a clear plastic inner cap. With the 1911 anyway. I have both the 1911 S and the they look identical. The pencil trick works just fine. In these.
Yeah.
It's a little plastic cup. In fact, I did it today. I was using this thing to kind of like clean out a cap, and I had accidentally did it with a paper towel. So like,
so it's not like
if a paper towel
it's not
can
like
do
locked
it,
in there. Yeah.
Oh look, I did it. Yeah. So there it is right there.
Nice. Okay.
So
yeah, so that little insert, you can't really see that, and honestly, it doesn't really matter as much on the more opaque barrels like what Drew's showing here. If you have any of the pens, and this is not just for Sailor, this could be for other brands too. If you have any where it has a cap insert like that, which TWSBI has, you got that on the Pilot Custom A23, the Pilot Custom 74. You can get ink in the cap behind that insert, and it doesn't hurt anything. It just doesn't look as presentable. So the trick that I like to use that Drew was talking about is you take basically a number 2 pencil, and if you need to, you wrap a rubber band, over the eraser portion of the pencil just to give it a little extra girth and give it some grippiness, and usually just kind of gently pressing that in there, and then when you pull it out, it's got enough grab, on that inside to just pull that insert right out. They're usually just friction fit. I think the Pilot Prera has like a screw in there that's holding it in. So the friction trick won't work with that. That's the only one that comes to mind that I know is screwed in, but it's possibly there could be other ones. You can usually see if there's a screw in there, but the Prera is the only pen that comes to mind that I know has that.
These actually look like they might have a thing in there, but they don't. It's clear. So you see see through it to the little bolt at the end.
So you're probably seeing like the screw that might be holding the clip on.
Yeah, something like that.
But it's actually past the insert. Okay. So, I mean...
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to try. Like, a rubber band's not going to hurt anything in the inside of your cap.
As long as you have your wits about you and you're not, pulling on anything that if you're like, if I'm doing this wrong, I could break this thing. Sometimes, and Drew will testify to the fact that I can get pretty daring with some of my own pens.
Yes.
And he'll like start to pull something. I was like, I don't know if this thing is supposed to come apart like this. And I'm like, well, let me try, because if I break it, then I've bought it. So I can be a little more daring, and I'll try a few different things. And sometimes you have to go, even knowing what you're supposed to do, you have to go beyond the point where you're like, I feel like I'm going to break this thing. And then it gives like right at the last second, and you're like, oh, okay. Especially like the first time you take, a pen apart, there's usually, it's been sitting there for a while, or if it's been inked and the ink is kind of like frozen, that piece in place or something like that, you sort of need to kind of know what you're doing. And if you've done pen restoration or worked with like vintage stuff, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like sometimes it gets pretty hairy. But I would say like there's not as much benefit or payoff to disassembling a Sailor Pro Gear or Slim, other than taking the nib and feed out and taking out that insert just mainly to clean it. But even then, just try and do it minimally, because it's plastic, and the more you mess with plastic and you're dealing with pressing and releasing like friction parts over time, you're going to weaken those parts. So just try and do it as minimally as you need to, just for like deep cleaning and stuff like that. If you're using a shimmering ink or some crazy permanent thing and you want to really deep clean it, then you can do it. But, try not to do it like all the time.
Yeah, I always choose pens that are very easily disassemblable for any of the crazy inks that I like to use. If I'm using something that is a little funky, then I'm going to pick a pen that I can totally take apart and get a toothbrush in there on the fins and everything like that.
Exactly. All right, and then the last question we have is from Emily Lai. Love the Pencast. Just wanted to ask about your recommendations on pen cases. Pen cases.
I like this topic, Brian. I get excited about cases. So, Emily, I've got some thoughts. Got some brain thinkings for you. So for traveling and on the go cases, if you're looking to just take something in the bag or the purse, I think that rickshaw is a great idea. So something like this, the koozie case is great for holding, not only a bunch of other pen cases, but you can shove a bunch of stuff in here. You can put your glasses in here, if you want a pocket knife or something like that. One of these can just fit a whole bunch of stuff in addition to pens because it's just an empty, void in here. So there's no, limitless possibilities. Shove whatever you want in there. Rickshaw also is a really great idea for protecting pens. You don't want to be touching other pens or having an elastic band grip. If you've got something really, really sensitive, I mean, the what do they call it? Ultra plush, Brian. The stuff that's inside this pen, like this is super, super soft. Like it feels amazing, and it's going to baby your pen. So if you really want to pamper your pens, this is the way to do it. And a lot of good, pen roll stuff you can put in your bag and go. For all-in-one solutions, like if you want to have your notebook, maybe your keys, your AirPods or whatever, Galen Leather has a lot of really great options for that. They've got more of kind of an all-in-one system. If you want your journal with your pen and all this other stuff, Galen's a good example. Nice leather stuff, made in Turkey, really good quality, and a lot of different varieties in kind of what they make. It's not just for pens. So if that's kind of your thing, if you want to have an all-in-one solution, I would recommend that. They've got big bags, the Medic bag that they have. All sorts of fun stuff. A little more expensive, but you get a lot of good stuff and a lot of variety, and there's really no other brand quite like Galen in terms of the type of cases that they offer. And then there's Aston Leather and Girologio. I put them in the same camp as far as kind of a little bit more versatile. They are going to be kind of like the book style pen storage for the most part. They've got some other stuff that fall a little outside of that, but for the most part, they're going to be, your fold out style with a bunch of elastic sleeves to put your pens in, 10 case, 20 case, 5 here and there. And they have multiple different colors of leather, and they're going to be pretty good for either putting it in, a bag or a case and going, or just for desk storage. I tend to use that sort of style of case for office storage, but it is a little bit more versatile and definitely more more cost friendly than a brand like Visconti. Like Visconti and Esterbrook, actually, those two have more premium, I suppose, and they have what I would consider to be office-centric storage, in my opinion, because their cases are more of a tray design. They don't have, like Esterbrook has elastic in their tray, but they're more or less these individually segmented kind of barriers that you rest your pen into. So they're like kind of walls along the edges. So like, 5, 10 of these, individually little pen cubbies. And they, I think, make for a better presentation. The Esterbrook especially, it kind of like folds open. So it really kind of creates a nice professional display for your pens if you're into that. So I think those two, Visconti and Esterbrook, do really well with an office environment. They're fine for traveling if you wanted to do that. There might be a little bit of play moving up and down. Like if you tip them over, they might kind of like, slide a little bit just because that, those individual pockets might be a little tall. But it's not going to be, unless you're running around and jumping and stuff, it's not going to go anywhere. But those would be my picks for office style. Any thoughts on that, Brian? That was perfect, Drew. You said everything you need to. You're so smart. You must have done a ton of prep on this. Oh, well, thank you, Brian. I really appreciate you saying that. It means a lot coming from you.
I was just going to ask, what would be the ideal pen case if you wanted to have a pen in your pocket while you were cutting out roots and stumps in the woods using a reciprocating saw?
No one does that. Only crazy people.
I've dismantled an entire carport with fountain pens in my pocket before.
That's right. I remember that.
I've done many weird things with fountain pens in my pockets. That sounds kind of
And you have not
sounds kind of bad,
broken a lot of them either, which is kind of surprising.
No, I've never broken a fountain pen because of an activity I've done with that pen in my pocket.
Have you ever cracked your...
I've broken pens before, but I've never done it just like carrying it around and using it going about my daily life.
Well done. I feel like you should earn an achievement for that.
Thank you. I mean, I
Good
try
job.
to be conscientious of that. I'm not just like tossing around fragile pens in pockets with my keys and then doing a bunch of sit-ups and playing dodgeball, or something. I try to, if I'm going to be doing an activity that I know is going to be involving a lot of movement in the pocket area, then I'll have it in some kind of like case or a sleeve or something that's a little more.
What's your go-to case?
I like the single sleeves, if it's a pen that it's fairly sturdy, something like a rickshaw sleeve will work pretty well. That doesn't have a lot of like structural stability. It's good for scratch resistance and just general protection, but it's not as good for, I'm a cargo pockets wearer, as you know. And if I'm going to be, I don't know, running around in the yard, with the kids kind of thing with pens in my pocket, I would go for like a Girologio, like a hard case or something, just like a couple of pen, 2 or 3 pen case kind of thing. And then, they got plenty of room. The pens might rattle around a little bit, but they're individually protected in those. And it's like a more of a hard case. So I know if I'm going to be like hitting the pocket or doing something like that, those pens are a little more protected. So yeah, that's where I tend to go. Or, if I have larger cases, I have a lot of Aston, I have a lot of Girologio and things like that I'll just, I have a lot of different pen cases and I use all of them, especially right now because I'm at home in the office and I'm transporting pens a lot everywhere right now. So yeah. I have many variations of different pen cases, and honestly, I kind of like them all. I really haven't met a pen case that I just flat out hate. I have almost all the varieties and I like them all for different reasons. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like I've owned just about all of the, brands that we've talked about, but I use them for different purposes, like exactly. I kind of described. You've got your office ones and your kind of on the go ones. And I think that, just about all of them do well in at least one of those zones or the other. Absolutely. I do like the rickshaw ones though, because you can just shove all kinds of extra things in there. Like the koozie, like literally just today, I had to bring in a whole bunch of pens for something and I just did not have a lot of time. And I was like, I don't want to go individually like pulling out this pen, that pen. It was a bunch of like Lamy Safaris and stuff that I need to bring with me. So I just dumped all the innards out and had the koozie case and I took like 20 pens and just shoved it in the open hole. Yes, I did something very similar this weekend. So these are the ones that are supposed to be in my other koozie case. Yeah. I got a nice 2-3-2 situation, nice koozie case sandwich, but they're just loose in my desk because I use this case for bringing portable video game systems to my vacation this past weekend. So they're very versatile. Yeah, it's very cool. All right, got a hypothetical this week. This one comes from a non-Goulet person. Yes, this was from Welcome to the World with Sean. He mentioned on Instagram, prompting us to discuss what we consider to be the ultimate tool pen. And Sean says this pen must be in production, or at least I guess the core pen, because then he then says that we can add up to 3 functions, no limits. I guess no limits other than the fact that the pen needs to be in production. So no limits except for the rest of everything he said, which is literally just limits. Yes. So anyway, I thought this was a fun one. There's a lot of room for Brian to go absolutely insane on this one. I picked one that... I wouldn't do that. Of course you wouldn't. No, who in the world would think you would do something like that? So I wanted to do a Retro 51 pen. It surprised me that I chose this one, but I chose this one for a good reason. So the main thing I would want this pen to have, Brian, obviously Retro 51s, they have a lot of different fun designs, but I don't want to have to pick up a different pen. I want one pen that can do it all. So I want a Retro 51 that has a external display around the entire pen so that I can change it at will. So I can
it has it's programmable. So the display can change it to whatever I want it to be. If I want it to be a shark pen for the holidays, boom, I got that. If I want it to be a Halloween pen, boom, it just changes. So like the whole pen is a wraparound like LCD or screen. So that's function 1. Function 2 is function 2 and 3 are kind of similar. So I want to be able to be using the pen, and then I want it to display something on whatever I'm writing on. So not only will I be writing with it, but it will also capture what I'm writing in some sort of internal memory. I've mentioned before on the Pencast that I use this thing a lot. It's a boogie board, and I can write something on here, with a stylus or whatever, and then just hit this button, and it gets deleted. So I have a terrible memory. So I will take out this, and I will just, write a little note so I'll remember what I'm doing, and then delete it over and over again. It saves some paper. But if I had a pen that could do that, I could just jot something down and then click something and then, forget about it. But then I could click it again and it show what I just wrote, kind of like a little notepad or something like that. Then I think that would be really helpful for me and my lack of brains. Likewise, function 3, if it could also display like grids and templates and things, like a circle, basic shapes, maybe journaling templates or outlines, squares, stuff that I could use to kind of, arrange my pages, maybe even, trace some things. I think that would be super helpful for me. Or maybe even lettering guides, stuff like that. I would love to upload some of that stuff and then trace it. The reason I didn't say rollerball was because I think tool pen, I think rollerball just because of its versatility. But the reason I think I might need a fountain pen is, realistically speaking, because this is very realistic and scientific, I would think that the cap would need to sit on the table to then project my display, because it can't really display while I'm writing because it's wiggling around and moving. So I think the cap would need to be kind of the display portion, I'm thinking. Okay. I thought way too much into this. But anyway, yes. So essentially a display pen, a monitor sort of note-taking projection pen with a programmable outside so I can change my design to fit my mood and not have to keep on buying new retro pens because I already have a problem with that.
This sounds like a good Kickstarter that's being birthed right here, Drew.
Maybe.
$55,000 buy-in on the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, at least.
Yeah.
At least for tier 1, where you just get like a personalized thank you from me.
That's right. Good. Well, if you thought Drew's had any level of impracticality to it, just you wait, because I had a lot of fun with this question.
What did you do?
Well, first off, I thought, what pen, just looking at it, looks like it should have some secret hidden functionality to it. And I thought immediately of the Jinhao Dragon pen. It just looks like the kind of thing that would be like sitting on a shelf in an escape room that would be a part of some elaborate puzzle or something like that. I don't know. Okay. I went with the Jinhao Dragon. First feature I would have is actually not that crazy, and in fact is pretty genius. I don't know how this would actually work. I didn't think about it as much as Drew did. But I would have a self-cleaning feature on the pen so that I would not have to clean this pen ever. It would just somehow magically keep itself clean. Maybe it's a time release or something. After I have not touched the pen for a month, it cleans itself and I can just pick it back up and ink it up and be good to go. So
that's a very practical
self-cleaning.
Yeah, that's actually way more sane than I thought you were going to do. So color me impressed.
I thought of that as you were talking and I was like, that's actually pretty cool.
Good. Yes.
The next feature actually might even be more practical than this one. So you remember the movie GoldenEye from 007, with Pierce Brosnan?
Do you want an exploding pen that you click 3 times and it blows up?
No.
Okay, because that was in GoldenEye.
That was in GoldenEye. I want to say that was a Parker Jotter. I think it looks like a Parker Jotter at least. That was pretty cool with the pen and the whole clicking thing.
Okay, so you don't want a grenade pen. What else from GoldenEye could you possibly need?
I feel like if I had a grenade pen, I would not keep track of how many clicks it had, and I would blow myself up. There's no question. Or I would have it in my pocket as I'm like doing yard work, and I would end up setting it off and blowing myself up. Either way, wouldn't be good. So no, not the blow up function. But when he's on the train and he needs to get out, he's got a watch that's got a laser built into it, and he cuts a hole in the floor with the laser.
You said this was practical.
I feel like having a built-in laser, not a laser pointer, but like a real laser, would be pretty cool. I don't know what I would actually use it for.
What would you? What?
I don't know. Just the eyes on the dragon.
Probably clearing trails and destroying stumps.
I would come up with some interesting creative use for a dragon laser eyes. Let me tell you.
Oh my god!
But the eyes.
So you'd want them coming out of the eyes.
Yes. I think it's mainly the jewels in the dragon's eyes that are making me think I want those eyes to shoot lasers. I don't know what functionality it would have. It would just be really cool. So maybe it could just be a laser pointer. Maybe that would be safer. If I would blow myself up with a grenade pen, I'd probably burn a hole in myself with a laser pen. So.
You did catch your ground on fire trying to destroy some weeds with a flamethrower.
I did that. I set my mulch on fire. I stamped it out though. It was. I noticed it pretty quickly.
Right, but does that person who set their mulch on fire need a laser pen?
That person shouldn't be given a laser pen. So we'll call it a laser pointer pen. That just sounds so not as cool. I don't know. We'll see. I'm on the fence on that one. But then the last feature is that it would have a built-in deodorant stick, so that when I'm recording long videos and sweating in my heavy sweaters, I can just discreetly take the pen and like stick it up my sleeve and just kind of like reapply. You know?
Okay.
Or maybe it could be like a perfume, like injection kind of thing, so I could be even more discreet and just kind of like lift and just like, like spray some good scent in there.
Oh my god.
So yeah, very practical. I don't know. I think we're onto something here, Drew.
I mean, it's very you. I'll say that.
I totally didn't just come up with all of this on the fly as we were filming this pencast.
It's been a busy week for Brian Goulet. He's had some stuff going on.
I have, but still got time for a tip of the week. And I'm excited about this one. This is a very, very simple one. So if you've liked the ones that we've done so far, I'm glad to hear it. We're going to keep them going. This is a very easy one. This one's actually about paper. This is one of the simplest hacks that I've ever used you can impress people and they will never even know that you had a workaround for this. So, if you've ever gotten any kind of correspondence from anybody on a blank piece of paper and you see that their handwriting, whether or not their handwriting itself is perfect or not, you look and their lines are like perfectly straight and, there's no lines drawn on it or anything. You're like, how did somebody write so straight across the page on a blank piece of paper? It's going to sound so dumb and so
witchcraft.
Simple. It's not witchcraft. It's very simple. You take a sheet of lined paper to whatever ruling that you desire, and you literally just put the lined paper underneath your blank paper. And then it's kind of faint, and this is not the darkest lines on this Triumph that I have. But you can see, as you're writing, you can see the lines through the paper that you're writing on of the paper underneath.
Witchcraft.
It looks like witchcraft, but you write it across, and then as soon as you take the blank piece of paper off, you don't see the lines anymore because they're not actually on the paper. And then you look at it and you're like, wow, that's so much straighter than if I had just written, on a blank piece of paper with no lines. Super, super easy, super simple. You can take whatever sheet of paper. You can use like a college rule if you want a 7mm ruling, or you can, Clairefontaine does their 8mm ruling. So you can get different widths depending on which nib size you're using. I recommend it 8mm or something like that if you are writing with like a stub nib, or you want something a little more calligraphic, or a broader nib. Just gives you a little more space. But yeah, makes it nice and easy to write straight lines. Just put a lined sheet of paper under your blank one. And that is my tip of the week.
And that specific one you have there, the Triumph, that will actually come with a sheet of lined paper as the first page. This
one is actually the lined tablet, but Clairefontaine Triumph, if you buy the blank one, it actually comes with a single sheet of lined paper as the first sheet for exactly this reason. So you can put that line sheet underneath your blank sheets, and everyone will be impressed. They're like, wow, this person's handwriting is terrible, but their lines are so straight. At least that's what they say to me. Not really.
Love
my
it.
handwriting is okay, but it's,
Yeah.
lines are straight though. All right, moving on to the next segment, the pen of the week.
Hey.
So Drew slacked me yesterday, and he was like, hey, did you ink up your Curidas yet? And I was like, nope, totally forgot. Kind of had a lot going on. He was like, yeah, me too. Maybe we should reevaluate this pen every week kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, I think we might just have a lot going on. I don't know about you, but I haven't cleaned any of the pens that I've inked up already, and I've just been using them. I think that I'm just like, the frequency is too great for me to keep up personally. I like the idea, I like the concept. I want to be accountable to our community to be using these pens on a regular basis, but I'm just not actually doing it. So
Yeah.
yeah. My proposal is that we hold off maybe for the month of December, and then maybe reevaluate when we come back in January. Because it's
Fair
just,
enough.
it's at the point now where it's like, I just feel bad, and it's not as like fun. It's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just like think of it day of and be like, oh crap, let me just ink this up real quick, and then yeah, sure, it was great. I don't want to be in that position. So
Yeah, I fail at enough things every week without needing to, have another one added to the list. I do fine on my own.
Fair enough. So, we like the segment. We're not going to like, oh, this sucks, we're not going to do it anymore. We're pretty slammed. This is our busiest time of year. We got a lot of family things going on and all that. Both my kids' birthdays are around this time of year, so things just get kind of crazy.
Yeah,
so
I have to do a
like,
lot for his
doing
kids'
on.
birthdays. I don't have time to write things.
Yeah.
I mean, mentally, I'm celebrating
You
their
feel,
birthdays.
You feel the emotional weight.
Yeah,
of that
absolutely.
coming. Yeah. Gotcha.
Absolutely.
You're in solidarity with me. That's fair.
For sure.
So anyway, if you were really looking forward to our review of the Curidas, let us know, and maybe we'll make that the next one that we do.
Yeah,
So I'm
I mean,
not
one of
totally
us
leaving
will.
you hanging.
Yeah, one of us will write with it at some point, and we will talk about it. So
Yeah.
it'll happen. It's just not going to be structured in any
Fair enough.
way.
And these pencasts are long enough as it is. So, all right, as we wrap up here, Drew, let's talk about just kind of what's happening in our lives and with the company.
Yeah, I have had kind of a bit happening. So this past weekend, I went to Southwest Virginia with my two brothers, and we got a little cabin in the mountains next to the New River. So that is a big honking river that runs through Virginia and West Virginia. And we did some kayaking, we did some hiking, saw a waterfall, got the drone out, made that fly around a little bit, and had a merry time. The only negative was that the house that we rented, which was not on Airbnb, by the way, I mailed a guy a check, and the website was very, very old. But anyway, it still looked nice, but there was a surprise element, and that surprise was that it was situated in between two active train tracks. So there was one train track in the front of the house that was probably about 50 feet in front of the house, like you could throw a rock at the train. And then there was another train across the river. It was a waterfront property, but you could see another train. Like you could see both. We're not talking about it was not through woods or on the other side of a street. Like it was train on the left, train on the right.
Wow.
So sleeping was a bit of a challenge. Other than that, the weather was nice. We did do some paddling. It was made some steaks. It was a good time. But that particular house we will not be visiting again. When you stay at a different house, it's hard enough to sleep already without double trains. And then but I did have some foresight and took Monday off, just kind of relax a little bit. Or I thought I was going to relax a little bit, and ended up I got home. My wife told me the washer wasn't working, so I needed to spend most of the day working on the washer machine, trying to fix the shocks on the washer because it kept on giving me an error because it was shaking too much, and I needed to do that. It was a $3 YouTube fix, but still, it was annoying. It took a lot of time.
Wow, and you fixed it. You fixed the washer?
Yeah. Basically, the shocks needed to be, the springs needed to be kind of held in place a little bit more. So some reinforced hose zip tied onto the spring, just kind of pinched it enough to calm it down.
MacGyver over here, zip tying his washer shocks.
It's YouTube. I also rebalance the drum, but It was annoying and stupid and sticky and messy and dumb. And then also the rest of the day, I ended up making my son a foam top hat because the following day was dressed as a snowman day. So, of course, I needed to make another thing out of foam like I did for Halloween. So, I downloaded a template online, got some craft foam, and made him a hat.
Wow.
So, he was a snowman. And then made him a little short scarf out of felt that I bought at the craft store. And I don't know what's wrong with me. And then I started buying VHS movies, Brian. So that's a thing now. I'm collecting VHSs off eBay.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't talk to me. That's
You. This is like.
I don't. It's just a thing that started. I had an empty
This
shelf.
is like another thing, Drew.
It's another thing. It's another thing. Yeah.
Why are you doing another thing?
I don't know, Brian.
You don't need another thing, Drew.
I know.
You have enough things.
I know. So I had a shelf in my entertainment center. So I've got my retro games. I got my Game Boys over here. I'm like, I got a shelf. What can I do with the shelf? I'm like, aha! VHSs from 1984. So I'm buying because they're cheap though, Brian. They're only like $5 a piece. All right, so I'm not breaking the bank on this, But yeah, I've got about 6: Karate Kid, Ghostbusters, 16 Candles, Spinal Tap, Terminator, Beverly Hills Cop, all 84, Brian. So they're all up there. They look nice and pretty. I need to get some more.
There were a lot of good movies in '84. I got it.
Yeah, there were. So the whole shelf is going to be one beautiful representation of how magical, monumental, and special 1984 was to cinema. So I need to get Footloose. I need to get Gremlins, Nightmare on Elm Street, a couple more. But yeah, gonna see if I can fill the whole thing up. So yeah, so I'm doing that now too. I need help. I'm sorry.
Wow.
What about you?
Yeah. Wow, that's really funny. I was just thinking about that. Like, yeah, that's how it starts.
Yeah, the Karate Kid one was one that opened from the side. You remember those? The VHSs that kind of like came out of the side and it has like a little.
Came out of the side.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a side sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, most movies, like there were some like blank cassettes that kind of were side sleeves, but most like movies you would like films, theatrical
they
releases.
come out like the short end. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them came out the bottom, but some of them came out the side. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yep, that's a thing.
It's a thing now.
And you said it started because you had an empty shelf.
Yeah. I also bought more Ninja Turtle figures.
More Ninja. Okay.
Well, I had Leonardo and I needed the rest.
Oh my gosh.
Shannon bought me Leonardo last year for Christmas, and I can't just have Leonardo. I need they're brothers. Yeah, they got to stay together. But they look so good, man. They're very realistic. They're like the Ninja Turtles from the 1990 movie, like the Jim Henson animatronic puppets.
Oh yeah.
So good. But now I've got all 4 and they look so nice.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, you do.
Wow. That's really funny.
Yeah, I'm funny.
I was given Leonardo and I had to get the rest. If you are not like the classic like case study for this addictive obsessive type personality, I don't know who is, Drew.
I know.
I'm totally the same way.
Right.
We're just lost causes.
Yeah.
Me, I've had a lot of random things going on. A lot of it's like family stuff, personal stuff, and it's like blah, 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 not super exciting podcast fodder. So
it sounds riveting. Tell me more.
I can't even
blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's like, it's all stuff that's like, I'm helping so-and-so with this thing in their life. And it's like, not really things I'm at liberty to like openly share about other people's, stuff going on in their lives on the Pencast and stuff like that.
Juicy details.
Well, like various people's health issues that I'm working with them on and doing stuff like that. None of that is exciting at all, but it's just life stuff. And there's just been a lot of that I've been, just working with various people who I'm close to.
Well, it sounds like you're being an awesome, helpful, kind human being. So kudos to you for that.
I'm trying.
That's awesome. No,
thank
sincerely,
you.
That is great.
Yeah. Hey, we've all got things going on and people in our lives, and we're doing a lot of things for those people.
Like me,
in
I'm
particular right
giving
now.
people on eBay, $4.50 for their old VHSs, and
There you
they'll
go.
no doubt have better lives because of me. So
Absolutely.
we're together. We're helping.
Yeah,
We're being very
yeah.
altruistic, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Equally.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, the one kind of cool thing that I did get to do, I did get to spend a little time working with some wood this weekend. So yeah, I had a friend who wanted to make a birdhouse for his aunt, and was like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I've got tools, I've got wood, like, let's do it. So came over. It's a nice, distanceable activity, wearing like masks anyway for woodworking dust is like, that's pretty cool. So I was like, okay, cool. I can be there. We can kind of help. But, I'm kind of like just standing there because like part of it's so that like he can like work with the wood too. I was like, you know what? Actually, I could make some gifts. I've made some like pen stands and things like that. So I made some pen stands to give out as like gifts to people.
Oh, cool.
So just, stuff like this, just like, it's like a block of walnut wood. It's nothing fancy. It's basically a block of wood with holes in it, but it just makes for a really nice kind of like presentable pen
I
stands.
like that it's not totally flat on all sides. It's got a little bit of a curve there.
Yeah. So
Honestly, you know what it looks like? It looks like a piece of a mantle.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have a mantle that I made that's made out of walnut like this. So it's the natural edge. So you see like the heartwood and the sapwood over here. All the bark was here, so I stripped off all the loose stuff and still left some of the natural kind of like, coloration and stuff like that. And then I just laid it out, drilled the holes. So, it's kind of cool. It's all one solid piece. So yeah, it's just kind of cool and nice and sturdy, but it's, the thing I like about wood pen stands is that, it doesn't scratch the pens or anything like that. It's can handle some abuse and stuff like that. So, and it's pretty easy to make.
Nice.
So I have all these like raw pieces of wood and some natural edge stuff. So, I just cut up some blocks of it and had some pieces that were suitable for, a natural edge little desk stand. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of a cool thing. It's small, it's easy, it's handmade, it's kind of cool. So I made some of those this weekend, and that was
Nice.
fun.
Now, I know back in the day, you would always order exotic woods. Do you still do that, or do you like use found woods? Like, is there anything on your property that you can use, or is it all just kind of like, not good enough for Brian Goulet?
I mean, the exotic woods and stuff are great for pens because they're really small. And some of the exotic woods can get really expensive, especially like I've had woods before where a block this size would cost you $70.
What?
Yeah.
I'm never mind.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say anything. I bought stupider things for $70.
Right. Depending on how exotic it is and where it comes from, stuff like this is all local wood. So I actually know a guy here locally. He gets trees that fall in storms or like the city's taken down for whatever trimming and various purposes. So he kind of, they basically like just burn or chip those up normally. So he, gets them, cuts them into slabs, and makes them for things like mantles and, natural edge, tables and conference tables and things like that. So I basically go to him and I'm like, hey, you got any like scraps that you don't really use? So actually this piece was a mantle, so he cut like a mantle slab, but the person didn't want the natural edge on it. So he had like, 3 or 4 inches, of several feet long that still had the natural edge on it. And I was like, that would be perfect for some pen stands. So,
Nice.
I get like scraps and stuff like that from him. And so it's, you can find some pretty cool stuff out there. So yeah, I'm working a little more with domestics now, not so much the exotics for, these like little project pieces. And so I've got like another one in progress. So you can see how it kind of starts out. I've got just like the raw piece. It's a little lighter in color, and then I kind of like lay out where I want the holes to go and, drill them and everything and sand it all. And it's very gratifying because it takes, a couple hours and you can batch out a few of them and, you just kind
That's
of.
nice. Yeah, I know you generally do like a few wood projects a year to kind of scratch that itch.
Yeah, nothing crazy. And I've made like end tables and various things like that around the house. Nothing in a production setting in any way, but yeah, it still scratches that itch. That's
What's your ultimate like wood thing that you would like to build in your lifetime?
ultimate wood thing. I mean,
Like
I'd love to
rocking,
do,
like a rocking chair or a canoe or something like that.
I don't know, trebuchet would be pretty cool. A roller coaster. I've seen that, like backyard roller coaster. I mean, that's legit.
Oh,
thing. Have you
yeah.
ever seen that?
No, those alpine coasters. Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. No, not really. I'm joking about those. I mean, like a dining table or something. Like I love the natural edge kind of slab look. So I could see doing like a slightly larger piece of furniture like that.
Cool.
It was pretty cool doing our mantle here. That turned out really well.
Nice.
Because that's like a 6 foot long by 12-inch, walnut slab. That was a lot of work to haul around this like 100-pound chunk of wood as you're trying to work on it. But it was a lot of fun. So yeah, just stuff like that. It's just for fun.
Very cool. I'm glad you got a chance to do that. I know that those opportunities don't present themselves enough, and I know that for any artist, you have that part of you that whatever your hobby it is, when you don't do it long enough, it kind of bums you out a little bit. Then you do it and you're like, oh my God, you forget how much you loved it and how much you missed it. Even though if it's not really eating at you, once you have it back, it's like a breath of fresh air. Like you just like drank a cold glass of water or something. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, I know the feeling. That's fantastic.
And I can only justify the time working on this kind of stuff. Like Rachel's like, I support you in doing this if you promise not to turn it into another business. She's like, you can do it as a hobby all you want. I support you in that. But she's like, I do not want to set up another business. I don't want you to sell this stuff. And I was like, all right. That's fair. So I make stuff. I'll give it away to family, friends, whatever. But I can't sell it. So that's the deal.
That's a rule.
She doesn't want another job. Fair enough. Company-wise, we got some company updates to talk about. So we've been trying to keep things light around the office, support our team. So we've been supporting them with some breakfast. Had some awesome biscuits, some local biscuits this morning, being Wednesday when we're recording this. So that was awesome. Also,
with the cheddar tots. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, that was so good. So good. So yeah, we're trying to support our team with food, especially during the holidays like this. Everybody's working really hard. It's been good. I
felt very supported this morning. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
We also decorated. It looks lovely over here.
We did. Yeah. I saw you share that on Instagram. Had some great stories going on. Yeah, that was really, really cool. We got a couple of team members who just really love decorating. And so they were able to make some time and go around and do that. It's really cool to have this kind of festive feel, around our office. And then we had some other excitement happen earlier this week, Drew, when had huge Amazon Web Service outages that shut down like Slack and Disney Plus and all these things. Well, it shut down our shipping software, so we could not ship anything on Tuesday afternoon, and we were scrambling trying to figure out what was going on. Of course, it's like the worst time of year to have our shipping down, but it was not even our issue. It was like so much of a bigger issue, so we basically just had to kind of ride it out. But thankfully we'd shipped most everything in the morning. It didn't set us back too much, but it made for a very dramatic few hours there in the middle of the week. And of course that would happen like when we were doing our offsite leadership planning, and we were like kind of indisposed, but then it's like, oh, okay, everything's on fire, cool, great, perfect timing, as it would happen. But everything worked out. It's fine. Team's working hard. We're getting everything out. But, nothing adds to the excitement like major software issues during the holiday season. It's just a lot of fun. Cool. All right. And then what's on your desk, Drew? You got some pens you're playing with?
Yeah. For some reason, I have a lot of gold nib pens, Brian.
Wow.
Yes, a lot of gold nib pens that, like, if I were to recommend to somebody, they should kind of like pick up as their, as a great entry level one. That these would be great things to choose. I will say, I'm not gonna, there will be a video coming out that are gonna involve some of these. One thing I will say, Brian, in using these pens today, Drew Brown is here to tell you officially, ladies and gentlemen, the Decimo superior to the traditional vanishing point.
Whoa.
Yup.
Whoa.
Saying it.
First you're talking about the Explorer and how it should kill the Metropolitan. Now you're talking about the Decimo killing the vanishing point.
Fight me, okay? All right. Not saying the Explorer is better than the Metro, but it does not get as fair a shake as it should against the Metro. The Decimo, though, lighter, thinner, for my little hands, and I just like the profile. Now, it does not come in black matte, which is a huge bummer. If it did, I won't say it's superior. It's not superior. It's close to being superior because it doesn't come in black matte or just, it doesn't have enough colors. But I have never really given the Decimo a shot, Brian, and I do like the fact that it's lighter, and I do like the fact that it's a little slimmer. It feels better. I enjoy writing with it just physically more than the VP. Now, the traditional Vanishing Point, one of my all-time favorite pens. That is like the best note-taking pen ever. Just fantastic. So I love it to death, But so I'm not going to hang it up anytime soon. But man, I was super impressed by the Decimo.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the Decimo and the Vanishing Point. I think the two pens are very close. So you could easily make an argument for one being better than the other. And you could be right. You could be right about either one.
Yeah, and I can do the same thing with the Metro and the Explorer, absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's more similarities between the Decimo and the VP.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see a greater emphasis, a greater offering of the Decimo in the US. I think it's a little more available in Japan. I think it's, the Vanishing Point is more the front runner in the US. I mean, the Decimo was not available in the US at all until a few years ago. So, and most of the colors are like a lighter kind of a, pastel type of a color.
Yeah, this blue one actually looks really nice. This one's kind of like almost a denim, like a navy denim. I really like this blue. So honestly, golly, I hate that I keep discovering new pens, and it's just very, very upsetting. I need to stop looking at pens so I can stop wanting pens and buying pens. But that's not going to happen. I clearly have no self-control when it comes to purchasing unnecessary things.
I mean, if any Pencast has proven that, it would be this one today.
God, I'm not even talking to you about the other things I bought on eBay recently. Not even gonna.
Oh, you're just gonna like drop that in there and leave it?
I just feel.
Might as well air it all out, Drew. I mean.
All right. Well, Archer got this toy catalog, right? And he's looking at this thing. It's like some something that opens up and it creates like a little play set, and you got these tiny little figures that are all up in it. And he's like, oh, this is cute. I'm like, yeah, it looks kind of like it's for babies though. Like, what you really need is a Mighty Max toy. Those things were badass. Like that's what I had when I was a kid. They were sweet. So I started showing him pictures of Mighty Max, and he's like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. I was like, yeah, they don't make them anymore. And so I'm like,
wait a minute. I wonder if you can still get I can see exactly where your thought process is going.
And of course I found one, but finding them that have all of the little dudes is rare because they're all missing and gone.
Oh yeah. So how many kids' noses and dogs' stomachs are these little pieces ended up in?
That's where they're still in the noses to this day.
To this day, absolutely.
Mighty Max is in so many kids' noses. So of course I had to buy one, and because he thought they were so cool, and I was the one that mentioned it. I'm like, what's cool is Mighty Max. But yeah, so I did that, and then then last year I thought to myself, because he's talking about these robots that connect. I'm like, well, Power Rangers, that's the best robot connecting toy. I mean, even if you don't watch Power Rangers, which he doesn't, those toys were awesome. They connected really well. They were resilient. They can get beat up. So I found the Thunder Megazord on eBay for like $30. So yeah, it's cheap. This was before COVID, not last year, year before last. This was before COVID, before everybody started collecting everything. They were at home. They're like, oh, let me collect all the everything. But he really likes it. And I stupidly showed him that there's the White Tiger Zord can connect to the thing he has. He's like, oh, I don't have that one. I was like, oh, dang it.
Dang it.
So, and this is my fault. Like he's not bothering me for this. I have a problem because I'm like, well, you need the thing that connects to it, obviously. The White Ranger was my favorite thing. So I'm like, but now the prices are higher because I need to stop. I need to have eBay taken away from me. I'm just like my mom and the Fiesta Wear stuff. Like I can't.
Yeah, when you start making your own soap, I'm going to be like, Drew, no, stop it. That's enough. You jumped the shark.
Yeah. Oh man. It's
so bad because I mean I have no room to talk. You and I are in the same boat, and I'm just like, you'll tell me about these things, and I'm like, really? They have that? I wonder if they have this other thing.
Right? You're talking about $70 chunks of woods. I'm like, what? That's weird. I'm like, oh crap. No, never mind, Drew. Shut up.
What? That's weird. I'm gonna go buy a bunch of Power Rangers on eBay.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
I had to find this like. a Happy Meal toy. Like when I remembered that McDonald's used to have burgers that transformed into robots. What did I do? I went on eBay, bought a bunch of damn like Transformer hamburgers. I'm like, I can't.
I had that as a kid. Can you hold that up to the camera here? I want to see that thing. I had that as a kid. I remember that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're amazing. And I'm like, well, I need these now again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you, I can't. I can't with myself.
Yep. If you just had a time machine, Drew, you could just go back to 1984, just like ransack any random suburban house and come back here and you could like retire.
Oh, and of course now the
good.
holiday season is making me think of Home Alone, and I'm thinking about the Talk Boy that he had in Home Alone 2.
Oh.
I'm like, that was like one of my favorite toys. I'm like, no, Drew. I haven't even looked on eBay for that one, Brian. I'm showing restraint, not doing it.
Talk Boy, huh?
No, don't you dare. Don't you dare. Tell me what, no. What's on your desk, Brian? What's on your desk? Stop it.
eBay.com. Talk Boy? You said it was called Talk Boy?
Nope, that's not what it's called anymore. They changed it. It's called the...
I remember that. I never had a Talk Boy. Oh, wow. Whoa.
Inaccessible.
Okay, some of them are not so expensive.
Oh, God.
They had a Talk Boy watch, too.
Nah.
Okay, some of these are not so bad. Like, $70, $80.
Oh, okay, that's not so bad.
Some of them are like $400 or $500.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Are they still in the boxes and stuff?
Fully functional original Home Alone Talk Boy box, blank, and soundtrack tape.
Oh my God.
I don't know why this one's that expensive.
I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
Wow.
I need to have some discipline. All right. We're at almost an hour and 50 minutes.
We're going long. We can't go too long. We've been told, Drew. We have full license to go as long as we want.
Y'all need to stop saying that because that's going to create problems.
We are pushing that to its limit. Yeah, for me, what's on my desk? The Eco Jade, literally right now, and I already talked about it. So
that's it.
That's
all you're getting.
That's what's on my desk right now, and yeah, that's it. I don't have any other weird obsessions I picked up this week, anyway. Drew's got it all covered there.
I do. Golly.
But do want to thank you all for watching. You can definitely leave us feedback about how we're doing, ask us questions, tell us about your childhood obsessions that you've recently found on eBay.
Please make me feel less alone.
Yeah, Drew is feeling home alone right now. Oh, that was bad. Okay, check out gouletpens.com. We have a lot of ink, paper, pens, all these things. You can shoot us an email at pencast@gouletpens.com if you have any questions listening to the audio portion of our Pencast here. And I have a random fun fact that is Santa Claus related, given that it's approaching that time of year. In 1955, Sears and Roebuck, the department store, tried to put the number of one of their stores where children could call Santa Claus and tell him what they wanted for Christmas. They advertised this in the newspaper. However, the number that they printed was incorrect, and it was actually for NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command hotline.
Oh my God.
And they were really good sports about it. So NORAD created something called the Santa Tracker.
Oh yeah.
And they still provide flight updates for Santa Claus on the internet, TV news, and a special iPhone app each Christmas. You can track Santa each year at www.noradsanta.org.
That's pretty good. I didn't know that's how that started.
Started with an accidental misprint of a phone number in a Sears ad in 1955. Isn't that crazy?
That is really cool.
Good
for them being good sports about it.
Exactly. I thought that was kind of cool.
They were also good sports when they saw Dr. Evil's spaceship flying. I appreciate
that's true. They could have shot that down. I mean,
they could have.
That's kind of what they're there for.
Johnson.
But, good stuff. All right, Drew. Thank you. Good luck with all your
Brian.
eBay purchases.
Oh, no.
Thanks everybody for listening and watching, and right on.